What's up, this is Ollie from Monuments and you're geeking out with Gear Gods.
What's up, I'm Swanny from Monuments and we're geeking out with Gear Gods.
What's up people, it's Ollie still from Monuments here with Gear Gods and we are here at Clear Lake Recording Studios in sunny California.
So we've been here in LA recording with Eyal Levi for a CreativeLive session.
A long story short is we recorded the vocals for our last album, The Amanuensis, with Eyal. So we've been in contact since then. And I believe he hit us up to do the CreativeLive session that we're currently doing, or currently wrapping up. We started on, I want to say 5 to 6 days. Okay. We did like a day for setting up drums, getting drum sounds, and then, you know, Anoop smashed it out in a day. Same thing for guitars and bass, and Chris has been doing vocals in the evenings of every day. So we're trying to record a whole song in the space of a week. But also, the idea is that Eyal has to just like explain and display all the techniques he's using, like what it takes to bring a song from the ground up in a recording studio to a mixed and mastered product. So we don't have all the time and luxury in the world. So that's why that is. It doesn't feel too much different. I mean, we're all aware that it's a live hosted thing, but we all came to the studio with the same kind of professional mindset that we would if we were recording something at home. We've all been to studios and recorded things before. So if anything, that makes it a little less stressy in some ways, and in other ways a little bit more because there are cameras rolling. But it's not really different. We turn up, we warm up, we get the tones, we record the stuff, we get out. It's just that with a bit more talking, because it's an online class. So what's different with the session is that we additioned a few amps, because there haven't been any live guitars, live amps on a Monuments album to date. So this was kind of a tester as well for Brown and I to see if we could achieve the same sound or a similar sound or a sound that works with tube amps. So we used a Mesa Dual Rec and a 5150 in the end. They tried out more amps, but I wasn't there for that day. What ended up being used in the studio is more like what we would use live. In fact, it's exactly what we'd use live. We've used a lot of Mesa gear live before. So it's more, yeah, whereas normally the rhythm guitars would be pod stuff.
It was kind of different to stuff we've done before. Any other studio experience I've had has been like in the studio, either tracking stuff for our albums, which obviously we have a much longer time scale for that, like recording 10 songs instead of recording like one song, everything to one song in like 5 or 6 days. So the process was very different, you know. It was a lot more rushed than it would be if you were obviously recording an album. But it delivered everything, you know, for the tutorial we're making for Eyal's class. It delivered everything that, you know, you need to know for when you set out to record heavy music. So the sheer amount Eyal and Brown did for the bass was pretty outrageous. They did like 6 tracks, I think, with 4 microphones in the end, or 5 microphones. I can't even remember. And just to hear this bass in the studio for the first time, because I've only had it like a year now, and in that time, I got it just after we'd like got into the Amanuensis album cycle and were touring and stuff, so I haven't really heard it in a studio situation. So to have the opportunity to use a cab, in this case, Mesa hooked us up with the Strategy, with an 8x10, and just to get a chance to set that up in the studio with lots of mics and like hear the bass in all its glory was pretty awesome, and just confirmed how great the instrument is as well.
I guess I'll start with Brown, because he's recorded the guitars on the albums and stuff like that. So our amps kind of change depending on where we are or what gear we have at the time. But right now we both have EVH 5153s. I haven't tried mine yet because we haven't been on the road. I think I just hit the microphone, I'm sorry. But I know it's a sick amp, I've used one before. So that'll be our live kind of the basis of our live tone when we go out in Europe, at least. So we both got those. Brown obviously uses a pod and has done for a long time for clean sounds and layers and things like that. He also uses a pod for recording as well. And he uses mayonnaise guitars. He's got a couple of signature models, I think 2 6s and a 7, I believe, which are amazing guitars. And then we use like Boss pedals, MXR pedals. I'm a big fan of the full tone OCD. I use Aristides guitars and only Aristides guitars. Yeah, and then just a couple of pedals. I don't do any clean sounds or anything live, so I don't have a pod. I have a pod, sorry, but I don't use it live. So I think in the grand scheme of things, at least the guitarists, our sounds are they're achieved in a simple way. For me personally, it's just guitar, pedals, amp. I don't have any MIDI, foot switch, control, axe effects, you know. So Aristides guitars are the business. They are expertly crafted, and as soon as I got my hands on these, I didn't have to worry about searching for gear or tones or anything like that, since they're really well made, they're very sturdy, they sound great, they feel great, they look great, they intonate great. I'm just very happy. They're green as well, they don't use any wood. They're made out of a substance called arium, which they create in the factory. So that's kind of cool. And this fretboard is made out of something called Richlight, which isn't, I mean, I don't know what it's made out of, but it's not wood. And it sounds and feels great too. My favorite thing about this one is this is white. I like white guitars a lot. It's very basic, it's quite striking. I'm into that stuff. It just feels great. It's like 26 and a half inch scale. Okay. So it's got the perfect balance of being close to baritone in that it handles lower tunings better. But it also, I find with 27 inch scale, your lead stuff starts to feel a bit tense, whatever. So it's got a perfect balance of that stuff. It doesn't go out of tune. It did the other day, but only because I put new strings on it. And yeah, I've only played 1 gig on this one, but I will play many more.
What I brought to the session at CreativeLive was this Aristides 050. I also have another bass with me. It was the bass we tracked the original album with, the Gnosis, but I kind of just bought that one because Eyal had never worked with a bass that was, you know, a composite material instrument, so he didn't know how it was going to sound, so I bought that just as a backup. The body is made from a material they call arium. It was developed to be a hugely resonant material, and you can hear it in the bass's output, even unplugged. It's got like this really thick, kind of piano-like tone. This is my custom 050. It's the differences from the stock model are, firstly, I kind of came up with this purple marble finish, which is awesome, right? They do it by like layering up lighter layers of purple with like newspaper. Oh wow! Well, I think that's how this one was done, and it's got like a high gloss finish. Fretboard is like this super shiny piece of maple that it took Ferdinand, the luthier, like a whole week to finish, which has a really cool kind of like holographic effect. Aesthetically, I got them to put this contour in the body at the bass, so it kind of mimics the feel of like a more traditional jazz bass. So when your arm's coming over, you kind of have more of a sloping surface, so it doesn't like dig in, especially if you like headbanging stuff. I found with the stock one, I had a bit of a thing there, just kind of like digging into my arm. It comes equipped with Seymour Duncan quarter pounders, these bass lines. And I got this awesome satin finish on the neck. So I'm a pretty sweaty man with all this hair, so when it comes down to like live situations, if I had a high gloss finish on the neck, it would have been crazy, you know, it could have got really slippery. I would have been finding it hard to play the riffs and stuff, so it's cool. Awesome. Works very well. It's also got hip shot hardware and this awesome switch, which is like amazing. It's like a mid-cut slap tone. Usually on the stock models, if you pull the pot up, it like activates the mode. On this one, because my hair flies around so much and like gets caught up and stuff, I was finding my hair was like pushing it down during shows and stuff, so I just flipped the thing, so it's always on awesome mode. It has this huge bottom end, and yeah, it's just like super crystal clear highs. It's great sounding bass. The instruments are all composite material. Now they don't even use wood for the fretboards. They use something called Rich Light. It's a material that's been used by guitar companies before. I think Gibson used it at one point, but it has kind of a similar tone to this. From what I've tried, the similar tone to the maple. It's kind of snappy. But we went on a tour through Canada and the northern United States during winter, and it was so cold. But they were fine in the trailer, and you get them out and put them directly on stage, and they're under the lights and stuff, and they don't really falter. They're pretty good for that. Obviously, we use weird tunings as well, so they have to deal with all the different like tensions on the neck, and it being a 34-inch scale instrument. That's quite a thing to ask of an instrument, to do all these things and like stay in tune and sound really cool and stable. So yeah, super happy with it. Like I say, for a 34-inch scale bass, I don't think you're going to find anything that's going to be as stable as this. Particularly like I was talking about the environmental conditions and stuff affecting it. You can put strings on it, and you don't even really need to like stretch them in as much because the body's so stable. Just the act of like stretching the string in, kind of, it works a lot faster. So if you have a string break, you can throw them on really fast during a gig and like get it on, and it's kind of stable straight away. So they're very cool instruments. Douglas from Dark Glass Electronics hooked me up with one of the new B7K Ultras, which we used through one of the channels of bass, just for like the distorted highs. And it's an awesome pedal for live, for a bassist that just wants to have a compact rig and wants to turn up to a show and get like a decent sound. Someone that wants to know exactly what they want to hear, and they're going to have a gritty tone. Although the EQ is very cool, it's very responsive, and it can be used just like a preamp, I found. So I use it with like a boost EQ before it live, because it just helps to bring it alive a bit. But very cool, nashy like bass tones, and just straight out of the box sounds good, So that was very cool for this session. We used it for one of the bass tones and blended it with everything else. Eyal will blend it with everything else when he mixes it. So yeah, very cool. It's got these new selectable mid settings, so it's cool to fuck around with that shit. Try different stuff, and it's also got a switch for just turning on the grit, so you can have a clean tone and turn on the drive separately, which that you couldn't on the previous pedals. So it's pretty cool. Cool. So this is the bass we used on our debut album Gnosis. I've had it for like 8 years now, something. But yeah, it's a Lackland Joe Osborne 5-string. It's got a maple neck, maple fretboard, swamp ash body. It originally came with like Lindy Fralin pickups, which were amazing. That's what we used on the album Gnosis, but they were really noisy. So if you take it to like a live environment, you put it under fluorescent lights, it was really buzzy. So I switched them out for EMGs. But yeah, really cool bass. Brought it to the session, like I said before, because Eyal wanted something a bit more traditional to fall back on now. I don't use it now just because I found Aristide's instruments. They're like super loud, and the output, they're really hot basses. And I'm kind of in a live situation now, I go for a more simple setup. So I want like basses that I can just use the same patch for, and they're going to be the same kind of volumes. I don't want to mess around with like setting different volumes. I do have just got a little portable Warwick amp with two channels, so that could work now. But the Aristide's instruments are so safe that I don't need to use it anymore. But it is an amazing bass. I love it. It's got a lot of sentimental value. People often ask, like, where's that bass that we used to see all the time? But yeah, very cool instrument. So I still kind of use the same thing if I can. Now, because we fly around a lot and we just do like one-off gigs in places like festivals around Europe and stuff, I want a rig that I can like put in a backpack. I don't drive either, so like I need a rig that's kind of really portable. So yeah, I've been using a 1,000-watt Warwick head. That's the lightweight amps that they've just brought out, and it comes with a little gig bag. The pocket of the gig bag, you can fit like a tuner, dark glass, maybe like a compressor or something, a power block for it, and then just my bass, and then I'm kind of ready to go. Yeah. If we do tours, more often than not, I use a pod with some kind of power amp. I've used lots of different power amps over the years, but like mainly Pod X3, and at the moment I use a Matrix power amp. They're a company out of England, but they're a cool little company, make very lightweight power amps. I think they're like £8, maybe less than £8. Yeah, but very light, and you can put that in a rack case with a pod, and you can get it on a plane and stuff. So it's good for tours. It's like huge. The pod, the Line 6 stuff is hugely versatile because it has so many amps and effects and models and stuff that you can control by foot switch or control by MIDI. It's just the versatility is like greatly outweighs whether like some of the patches sound authentic or not. It still sounds good enough to use for a musician that's on the road touring, playing a lot of gigs, and doesn't want to have to like fill a car full of stuff to like get their rig sounding good. So yeah, so on tour, more pod, power amp, big, like the 6x10 Mesa cabs I've been using sound great. I've got one that we use in the States, and that's really like huge sounding with the Aristides. If we're doing more kind of festival gigs, then a more kind of condensed portable version, but similar kind of setup.
Working on one now, yeah. In fact, we were just working on it before we came over to California, and as soon as we get back, we'll be back on it basically.
We're in the process of writing the new album. We're 6 tracks in, but it's not going to be ready for like another year or something.
Yeah, we're going to be back here in like a month or just over a month with The Contortionist. It's a full North American, Canadian type deal. And Entheos and Sleep Makes Waves are also on that tour. So that should be sick.
That starts in March, and that's the closing tour for their album cycle for Language and our album cycle for the Amanuensis. So that'll be cool. I think we start in Albuquerque, and we go all around the States, and there's 2 shows in Canada as well, Toronto and Montreal. So there should be somewhere close to the viewers where you can come see us.
Yeah, so here I am at Clear Lake Recording Studios in LA, and I was here with both CreativeLive and Monuments, and we recorded all the audio for the Metal Recording Bootcamp that's going to come out in March 7th, I believe. It goes live